Ah,
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Marita. How are you?
good to be here.
Good. Today, so we're laughing because we want to talk about chaos. And as we were doing our recording, I said the word and our whole Zoom shut down. But here we're back. So chaos. So I often think, just to introduce,
Here, it's here.
it's here, right?
Thank you.
That it has a negative connotation in the Western mind, in the modern world, right? When we say it's chaotic, oh, this is so chaotic, right? It's like a negative term, right? But the indigenous ancient perspective is very different than that. So, Marita, what's your, let's weave together on this chaos.
Yeah. You know, I it's really interesting that it's not just from an indigenous perspective, right? If we look to Greece, sitting with those gods who I've been having a good time with, the first created being is chaos, right? If we look at it from a scientific perspective of physics, randomness, right? But unpredictable conditions, but there's nothing wrong, right? Chaos for many other people is that formless thing of creation itself. And so for me, when I sit with chaos, right, there is beauty in it because it challenges me to connect back to the world at a universal and galactic level of molecules, of atoms. And then I have to dig through and sort through my belief structures or my definitions or what has been told to me, right? And the Western world tells me that, as you said, chaos is bad because we're supposed to control things, that humans are here to control. But if I sit with my relations, if I sit with, uh, you know, cultures that sit and eat and drink with their gods, then I don't have to define it. I don't have to be attached to it. I can just allow it to be and learn from it. How can chaos, this formless, randomless, wow, that means if things are quote unquote random, then I can be in that unstructured, right? Unstructured playtime, for kids is some of the best things that you can give them, right? You have children, and it's such a beautiful thing to just have uh, unstructure, right? And we're seeing schools kind of find ways to reintroduce, as you could might say, chaos, opportunities for children to explore expression. So if we look at chaos as an exploration of expression and potentiality of individuation, then we're sitting with it in a different way. It doesn't mean that I like it all the time. It doesn't mean that it doesn't make my body quote unquote dysregulated, right? But that means I can sit with that dysregulation, right? Not damn it or demean it and be like, oh, this is what chaos feels like. Wow, how does this energy create? Right? Sometimes it means Marita's taking Alka-Seltzers, right? Chaos and Alka-Seltzers, you know? Sometimes it means, that I need extra support, right? I need extra support. I need to go, whew, really dig in deep and sit with cacao every day, which is what I've been doing to help. And that means my minerals are off, right? So chaos disrupts my minerals, right? It disrupts the land inside of me like a volcano. So then if I'm in relationship to the volcano here, Pele is very active and my minerals are moving and chaos is that energy of the creation of the unknown, then I'm going to go sit with the cacao that we make here, which knows how to birth in a different way, how to stay connected. And then
Mhm.
I'm putting minerals back in my body that creates balance, right? And so again, it's not easy. It feels uncomfortable at times. But if we are so quick to change out of chaos, sometimes we don't actually have the capacity to, and we just create more, right? Because we don't know, I don't want to say how to contract, we don't know how to work with it, right? Some people are excellent at working with chaos, excellent at working with chaos. And so, I sit with those
Mm,
teachers, whether I consider them teachers or enemies, right? Or my enemy can be my teacher, right? That attachment that I have, what it is just another being's interpretation of it.
mhm,
And so, whether I like it or not, how they're working with chaos, I can learn,
mm,
right? I can learn whether it's literally marine mammals who are, whew, talk about, they've been enduring a lot of chaos for a long time because humans created that chaos, and just the ocean itself, right? Not stable like land. And I'll say one last thing. Whenever I go back to the continent, I find the size of the land structure overwhelming sometimes, and and I find that that's where, if you are born and live on a large continent, right, and your continent as a quote unquote country is very large, it's very easy to be sure of yourself, because that land, you're like, oh, I can conquer it, I can take it, it's stable, I can drive through it, I can, But here in Hawaii, right, uh, we live with what many people in the mainland call instability, active volcanoes and the Pacific, right? So very different relationship. I think it allows us to relate to creation, or what others people would call random acts, in a very different way, um, and sit with chaos at the table and feed it as we
mm.
feed ourselves.
It's interesting because I remember my teacher say one time, a long time ago, say, well, without chaos, there would not be life. And there's a direct connection to life birthing through chaos. Think of the primordial universe that was not organized. And now with those amazing antennas where we can even hear the sound and have an image of what that looked like. The original, I think they call it the cosmic soup. It was like a boiling soup a little bit. And but that's interesting, right? The terms we use when we describe that. Um, and I often think about the opposite, which is very structured and organized and stable, right? And there is no evolution in that. Stability can be great and it can feel great to the body. Obviously, we need some elements of stability. We know that even for the climate, we need it. For our lives, we need it. But we know that also any transformation, we go through this period that feel chaotic, that are chaotic in essence, in order to bring growth and rebirth. And like you said, the volcano, right? For a moment, it can feel like chaos, but then new life arises on the slope of this beautiful mountain. Just give it time. And, I was a musician. I used to play violin in orchestra for decades. And the first things you do when you sit with other musicians is that everybody tune their instruments and you have this kind of weird sound. If you've ever been to a symphony or opera or orchestra, there's this chaotic sound. And then everybody, you hear everyone and we kind of merge and then we find this note that we align ourselves with. But we start with chaos. We start with every instrument being disconnected from each other's. And through that disconnection, through listening and studying the chaos, basically, through being in deep relationship with it, we find our way back to perfect tuning. And I find it's a beautiful image on how chaos is a precursor of a new melody or a new sound, of a new vision, of a new life. The possibility is there. Um, One of the teacher I studied with, the medicine man Lakota, is a Heyoka. Uh, and he was telling me that basically the role of the heyoka is to disrupt stability, because when energy is stagnant, nothing evolves. Ritual traditions, they have evolved over time, but if there was not the heyoka, they would have stayed the same and kind of died from just not moving. And that his role in ceremonies, even that I've sat with him sometime, everybody is in this amazing state of peace, it's very quiet, and then he do something really crazy in the space, and everybody kind of like, what's going on, what's happening? Or he would disrupt ceremonies of other people, just enter the space and do something really different because he found that people were too serious in there and too attached and too tight to kind of see how everybody react. And you could see that people that were already in their prayer maybe would get angry and things like that. Say, you see, maybe it's not that loving there, that there is still things under the surface. And he was telling me that the role of chaos is kind of go deeper also into what seems beautiful, what seems aligned, what seems clear. And then chaos come in and say, well, are you sure? It's like a pressing the buttons of everything and everyone, right? So it's a life-giving process, ultimately. Even if it can feel very dark and difficult to handle in our personal lives, or in our communities, or in our countries and the world right now, there's a lot of chaos going on. But it's always a precursor of something different. So sometimes, we're looking for hope, or we're looking for a way to, understand what is happening. And chaos, even if it's disorganized, as its own organization, even if it's seems meaningless, it has a lot of meaning. It's a primordial force that's been here for eons. And if we shift a little bit our relationship to it, a narrative, and like you said beautifully, like if that can become my teacher instead of my enemy, if I can kind of just shift that lens and say, okay, it's something to learn here, then I think we can allow that to flow more easily, and more importantly, learning how to dance with it, learning how to be present with it, honoring this very old force. That's probably one of the most ancient force that we are, witnessing right now, but has been here way before there was even a planet Earth, as we call it. So curiosity, I feel curiosity, and say, okay, maybe there is more to it. Maybe it's not just it's not human created. It's part of nature, our nature, and nature in general, beyond the human realm.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that symphony of chaos, curiosity, and creation.
Thank you, Marita. Thank you, everyone.
Mm-hmm.